Good morning, everyone. Let's get some charts up here. Liberation Day in 2 days. I don't know about that. You know, our president here, you heard this morning, the talking about this TikTok thing and maybe back off on the tariffs if China does this or that. I mean, the other administration was you may as well just have taken the gas pipe to vote for that, but this is worse than a woman. I mean, we've been experiencing it day to day, of course, but I just heard some woman, some I guess money manager, analyst, whatever, and she was reiterating what we've all know. And then like you hear this from people managing, a largest amount of money, and it's like they have to reevaluate day to day. you know, in any event, look, the trend is down. And so, continuation patterns on the weekly charts. And this is for me anyway, it's an extremely difficult technical situation for several reasons. And maybe it's better looking at the S&Ps, but I'll get to that. It's kind of like the same thing everywhere that we see. Not exactly, but a lot so. So, spiders are down here near the prior low. So just based on looking to the left and technical reasons, you just say, okay, it was up here, it's down there. There's going to be buyers down there. Um, Black and white. Okay, we can see some buyers have materialized down there. A little W, not even it doesn't meet the definition of a W, but it's a retest reversal on the 5-minute chart, and here's resistance. It's a mess, right? Going to take a little while. However, what we would have wanted to see is what we always want to see: historical patterns that have a high probability. Right? In other words, you have a daily chart that's moved down, such as this one has. And this type of a pattern was erratic. Right? So what should have happened technically, right? Not that we can dictate what the market does, but what should have happened with these topping tail bars, it should have come down here. And there should have been a retest, and it should have, at that point, tried to rally up into this area, or it would have went sideways and made another drop. Pattern recognition is that these are patterns that we recognize, and that's what we trade. When things happen that historically are not the norm, what the hell do you do with that? Well, you adjust bar by bar. So, but this insanity that happened was, okay, it didn't do that. There was news and it gaps up above the high. All right, what do? You do nothing. It's at resistance at that point. But the gap up was bullish, and then it had an inside day. Not really a 1, 2, 3 because it's at resistance, but if you want to count, the gap up and that bar is a 1 and then inside bar is a 2, it's like if it can take out the high, okay, maybe we get a move up in between the moving averages. That's the thought process based on the patterns that guide you to what to think and then what to trade. In any event, it wasn't the type of trade that it's like, oh, let's do a swing trade on this craziness here. No, it's like, okay, the trend is down. I wrote about this in the chart of the week. What do you do? Well, it's a personal thing. If this big bar would have turned into a bottoming tail bar, then I would have said, I'm confident in that pattern. But it didn't. It went down, more tariff news at the time. But if it would have moved up from there, intraday trades, however you want to do it. But what we would have wanted to see, let me get this little dot out here, is this weekly chart. So you can make notes or as to what you would want to see historically. And when I say historically, that means like in the future, for as long as you're going to be doing this, you would have wanted to have seen the weekly chart down here. I had a waterfall down there, collapse down there. And now it's at this major support where now this move up and retest here is aligned with a major support area. And at that point, you get whatever reversal would have developed, and you would have had a high probability trading opportunity. We don't have that. What we have is a continuation pattern on the weekly time frame, which really throws a monkey wrench in this because it suggests even going below this, and we start getting into measured moves. Now, the good thing is we don't have exactly the same patterns in other in other sectors where you have such a measured move kind of implication here of going lower. In any event, there's a significant support down here at this 540. But let's see if what happens here. With the tariff, the news is playing havoc with everything, and it is what it is. So right now prices are down here on the support. I haven't even looked at the SPX options yet, but I would imagine they're like way down low, some crazy amount. And last week we just had this continuous decline right into the end of the day. It just kind of was grinding there, but it couldn't lift up regardless. All right, so it's on the support. And as we let's just look at the Qs just to see the difference here, because they led the way down. And I guess they're even down below here. Yeah, they're down below that pivot. And we have a continuation pattern. And we've got support area down here, right, at 450-ish. So it's not quite as big, but look, continuation pattern. And because we have this news event that's coming this week, maybe this holds down here. So we're dealing with the unknown. We have a technical pattern that is misaligned, let's put it that way, in multiple time frames, and it makes it extremely difficult as far as trading from these time frames, because we have to see how this deals with this. What are we going to do with this news event? The news might be the low, and it'll never go down here. So I think that's what most are looking for, to see, of course, what happens after the news. What does the market do? What holds up? What doesn't? The internals are close, but I had mentioned down here a few times this was like a mediocre buy down here. Nonetheless, we had this advance, and the news, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to repeat. But what we want to look for in the coming days with this move down here is this breadth internal. Historically, with a market in a downtrend like this in multiple time frames, it should come down 250, 300. Historically, I would have greater confidence that a low is going to set up, and I probably won't be a V. I don't know what it'll be, what kind of pattern, but that's what we want to look for. And these sentiment gauges, this one is already into the bands, but it could certainly go lower. And of course, this one as well. So in bear markets, which we haven't had one for years, a real nasty one, this sentiment gauge bottoms out at around 1.3, 1.4. It hasn't been in that area for a very long time. And it may not get there. I don't know. But we're going to see as things go down. And of course, being a sentiment gauge, what we want to see, even intraday, and you can set an alert on the total put call ratio. Most platforms have it. Set an alert at 1.3 and 1.5. Historically, intraday, option traders will be buying puts hand over fist over calls. There'll be terror, and that is a measure of terror when that total put call ratio tags 1.3, 1.5. Intraday, your NYSE tick will be at probably a minus 1,500, and that is the measurement of so-called blood in the streets. So those are guidelines that you can set up now, and we'll see if it gets there or not. Right. So day to day, we'll see how things set up. Overall, things are going down. We've got continuation patterns. I'll take a quick look at others, but Bitcoin, rejection there, kind of holding here for now. Gold is making new all-time highs, becoming a little parabolic there, extended. So I think as we go into the news, if you are long gold, you probably want to sell some. This is the kind of pattern that typically ends a move, right? This is going up. Crude oil is holding up in this area. Right? We looked at this resistance area last week, and as it was coming into, and this major support area there, and we've got this little lift off there. So far, it's what we call bullish price action at resistance, bottoming tail bars, and day is just beginning, very erratic. Yeah, interest rates a little lower here. So some recession fears, interest rates going down, transport's going down, oil's holding up. I think technically it's just holding there. All of this artistry here was, you remember months ago we talked about this measured move and the likeliness that this would test this area, and it did. And we've got this big topping pattern on interest rates. And I'll tell you, we really do not want to see this plunging down in here. From one point of view, we do, because lower interest rates make money cheaper. To borrow money becomes cheaper, which is a good thing. It also makes stocks more attractive. But in the interim of that all taking hold, which can take quite a while, and this is moving down, this is going down. People are buying bonds. Look at TLT, which it's up here a bit, but it's just not a great pattern. In any event, if those interest rates start to move down, this is something that, will go up. It has to, right? It's the inverse relationship. So these are the leveraged ones, and you can see they're gapping up here, but they're gapping up into a trading range. So this is just not attractive. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter where you look. I mean, that's semiconductors, led the way down. And so, they're down here near these support levels, but I mean, it's kind of ominous looking when you start thinking about this is a continuation pattern, and, this move, and, breaking below the support. But you definitely want to have an alert down here at 200. You got to pivot, and you got to pivot, and it's got a whole number. So you want to be aware of that coming down there. So while the pattern has implications of lower, should it get down there in the short term, it'll bounce. Right? So as whether you're an investor, swing trader, short-term trader, whatever, we all want to look to the left and see where prices are likely to bounce from. Okay? As I don't have to look at all, you can see what's happening everywhere, and even financials that were holding up well, you can see that they're gapping down here and they're not even near support. So bearishness everywhere, and it is what it is. We mark off our reference points and wait. All right, SPX, gold to go a little higher. Well, as far as gold goes, Robert, or anything else, remember, we rely on your price patterns. And when things start going vertical, while it may not be ultimately the top long term, you know that it's going to begin to pull back, because as it goes up as much as it has and starts going vertically, it tells you that too many are jumping on board, and people are going to take profits, which is that's the bottom line. So it'll pull back. All right. So it's on support. This was last week. Was a nasty day on the way down, but we know that there were strikes down below there on the way down. Remember, these are our starting points, and here's look at that continuation pattern. 5,400. Not today. Not today. All right, let's get this up here and I'll hand it over to Dan. So look at that. 53.75. Where's 54? 5,400, 5,400. All right, I'm going to mark what I usually mark, but to go down that far, I don't think so. $56.50. Interesting. That didn't come down that much. Oh yeah, it did. I didn't adjust these lines this morning. Anyway, you got the numbers. And it's gapping down. So really, I'm not gonna, it's gapping down to here. That's going to be tricky. Get back up to here ahead of the tariffs coming out? I think not. So look, we'll wait, 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so to see how things shake out and where the strikes are at. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. So nice little sell-off here, which I love sell-offs. Love them. Because then once we get our turn, we're gonna have, start off with put spread galore. And then let me show you VXX. So this is an ETF of volatility. And the last sell-off, let me start with spiders. So this whole sell-off down here causes volatility. The VIX is the raw volatility. And then you can't trade that because that's just a computer calculation. But then they have volatility ETFs and futures and options. So when we get a turn, we look to short bearish strategies. You can short the VXX, you can buy a put, you can short call spreads, and the options get so friggin' inflated. And that's, you might have heard that term, volatility of volatility. But think about it. I mean, these are always high because it's volatility, it's insurance, it's fear, right? But when this thing rips up like this, then it's fear on fear is what jacks these premiums up. It's like, I give the analogy, the tornado or hurricane rather is approaching Miami, and you see it right there on the radar. It's a day or two away. And so I'm looking to do the same thing, but I want this to get, I'm actually shocked, Greg, and probably you too, that we're coming all the way down to these prior spider lows. And this thing's only 40% of the way up. You know what I'm saying? So that this, I'm shocked that this, I mean, of course, it's gapping up here. Well, that's a nice gap. I prefer a gap in a 58 and then ripping higher, taking out this prior high. That would be a good setup once we get a reversal in the spiders. All right, so alarms here. So it was hard, very hard finding quality setups. The shorts are, most of them are extended, like the broader markets. There's no way to short this pattern. Now it's gapping down. There's zero setup here. And so the ones that we found to short Do you all see the difference? This is tight, close to resistance, the 20 MA, closing breakdown, daily, weekly, monthly downtrend. And I don't know what the news is, but the gap is messing it up for us. So bib was another one. Look, closing breakdown. So that looks good. Let's see. WELL. So here's an example of longs were very hard to find. Yeah, I saw NVIDIA gap on that Carlo. Yeah, all the fangs are getting whacked pretty good here. So that's why the Qs are the biggest ugly gap. Um, so look at this pattern. If you were not looking at the broader markets, last Wednesday our MT live was on relative strength weakness. Exhibit A right here. Look at relative strength. It's a consolidation in an intermediate to long-term uptrend. It's been going sideways for 3 weeks as the market's been tanking. It has a flat 20 MA. We've done these MT lives for 7 years now. This would be a perfect example of taking off the candlesticks and giving me a bias. And my bias, without even looking at the candlesticks, is what would it be, Don? I'll tell you because we don't have time. It would be buy the first bullish setup. Voila, we got it. Closing breakout Friday. So my up alarm went off. I don't see much volume, but that is a fantastic long that I will put on regardless of what the broader market's doing because it's compelling, it's relative strength. Money is flowing here for whatever reason. To read. Those are well, actually, I got a ton of alarms going off here. Actually, shoot, I thought these were old alarms. Oh man, I got a ton of alarms going off here. My bad. All right, so this was a new short also. So you see again how it's tight. It's tight to resistance in the 20 MA in a breakdown and a void. So that was a good, we were going to buy puts on this. K-view, yeah, these are all alarms. Another relative strength, big old bull rectangle, daily, weekly. STZ alarm, we entered this Friday, it's pulling back, so that's just an early alarm. Baba was on my short list, big old topping pattern, gapping down here. So I looked at that for a call spread. There was not good juice, but look at daily, weekly. This is Greg did a good chart of the week last week on what we call stages, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's stage 1, bottoming pattern, stage 2, V top, 3, 4, 1, 2, topping pattern 3, next phase down into the void. See, that's a great example of 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so it's gapping down. Yeah, that's a good new setup. Sure, framing. Problem is the gap down. But that would have been a good setup had I seen it. Although I just saw on the word therapeutics. Therapeutics. 1 second here. Yeah. But yeah, so those are my two answers, Grammy. It was a fantastic pattern as a new short because it's not extended. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's gapping down and it's a bio. Yeah, there's only 1 or 2 earnings here. Workhorse, that's I don't know. We'll come back to it. And lower. All right, so potential bottoming pattern. So this Wednesday, MT Live is on, it's beaten down, but what do I do with it? And this is like an example of that. Look, this thing's beaten down. But there's no pattern. Or there's nothing to do with this. Downtrend weekly. I mean, if it took out Friday's high, I would say, okay, maybe put spread. Let me continue with these alarms. EFXT. This is one we traded last week. And now we're getting a buy setup. So I'm assuming my up alarm went off. Greg, I think this is the one you told me it was energy. But these are good setups. Bottoming pattern breakout and a retest buy setup on support. So that's a watch. Myrna, Daku. All right, Daku, we had a half lot on this breakout. Let's move stop 30-minute low.
That is an oil stock, but it's just trying to make a turn. It's too early.
Right. No, I didn't put it in the letter. I just have an alarm on it. And my alarm went off. All right, I got more alarms going off here. Region is another bio. Would be a continuation breakdown. So I like that 30-minute low.
That stock is dropping like a rock. If it became a bottoming tail bar, it'd be a great setup, but
ATKR alarm. This all right, so Greg, this was in the weekend letter. Do you have any ideas how to enter?
the normal way, 5-minute low. I mean, it's already down 2 days and gapping, so you better be quick.
Well, that's the question. If you were going to say it's down too much, right?
I wish you would fix that moving average because that chart is hard to read. I got to look at my own.
Yeah, so maybe, yeah, Alex, we can do that later. All right, tan alarm, nice. Let's move stuff. We have long puts on this, 31.17.
Interesting.
BBS. I had a low alarm. I think our stop is under here.
For day traders, look, I'm going to put the stop a little under today's low and 5-minute of TNA. Well, that's a 2-minute chart anyway. It would take a 5-minute bars high. If you look at the 2-minute, it's moving down. If you get another bottoming tail bar and it takes out the high of the day, the day trade. Now it looks like it's going to take out the low of the day, but I'm watching. It's down near support, and it takes out the high of the day. I'm going to buy it with a stop below the low of the day.
All right, our VTR is triggering cleanly. This was a couple of REITs are doing look great. Oh, what about our well? Yeah, that's a go on this pullback.
Tesla has turned out to be a big disappointment pattern. I think mostly a victim of the market, but that was a quite a positive, down near support, down a lot, what, 50 something percent, explosive move off of the low.
Yep.
It's filling this gap. So we'll see what it does. It's just, whatever's not going down at the moment is showing relative strength.
All right, KVU. That was another long. Another, see, relative strength, big old bull rectangle. So you see how selective these our trade ideas were for both longs and shorts? Very selective. Not to say that they, aren't always, but you know what I'm saying? Right, yeah, 5-minute low, 2025. I mean, you can be a little sloppier when you get the turn. There's no turn or patterns.
IWM is showing a little relative strength, and I'm measuring that because the first 5-minute bar is smaller than the others.
What do you mean? Diamond's taking out the high.
I know, but I'm not looking at that one. I'm just looking at the others. I saw it was green. I'm gonna buy a little TNA before it takes out the high. I'm assuming it's going to, but
Our BJ, relative strength. Nice, beautiful. Look at that 15-minute bar so far. We've been in this since last week.
what's Costco doing? Is that's the store, BJ?
Yeah, yep, competitor. Yep, yep. All right, SRAD stopped out.
I put the stop under 28, 27, and I can't even see 27.90. See what it does. I did small. I know things are erratic here.
Bib was nice too. Or SG stuff. SG alarm. Yeah, let's spread. No wrong, I gave a limit on the puts, so that's not going to get filled, unfortunately. Jack Henry. Yeah, it's a nice, yeah, relative strength continuation. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a big bar. I think I would prefer a 1, 2, 3 for 15 minute, 1 hour. Can't even talk
Hmm.
for
That
30.
that oil stock you mentioned, it became a bottoming tail bar, but I have to see what it looks like at the end of the day.
Yeah, EFXT. I had that's not a bottoming tail.
Oh, maybe that was a bad tick earlier when I said it was tanking.
I'm sure I was looking at something else then. But no, this one, my up alarm went off. There's a number of patterns that are like this, that have retests after breakout. Sill alarm. That's our sill. Oh, that's turning into a double top. Our stop is 38.44. So that's stopped out. Good thing we sold a third at the high. GoDaddy low alarm, but we're already out of that from last week.
TLTR is heading lower too. Just took out the 5 minute low. I would call that another victim of the market because that was a great pattern.
It's continuation. I just don't like the market for long. So it's not close to the 20. I don't like that unless the market makes a beautiful turn. It's not me.
gap down, Alex. Maybe you get a gap fill to short that IYZ. Unless you're going to put a stop above Friday's high or somewhere in between there. I mean, it's the only possible thing to do, a third size position and a lot of room and see what it does. I mean, everything is, bearish patterns everywhere. So, the size of the stock, but, smaller positions and see what happens. Little, very little stabilization, at least, there's no support. So,
E-Mus was up on the day this morning. I wrote it down. All right, Taku. I said most up, 30-minute low. We have a half lot. Bib. ILMQ. Let's move stop. This stopped out on Friday. Oh, Charlie India here. Okay, am I?
It's the first attempt at a turn there. IBM is strong. Comparing, but just took out some resistance. Tesla turning up, getting near the high of the day.